Hey guys, yesterday I made this gooseberry, cinnamon and vanilla jam. I had a load of gooseberries since the summer in the freezer and I decided to use them up to make jam, and I used cinnamon and vanilla because I thought those spices go really well with home baking. So you start by sterilising the jars you need in a pot of boiling water, and in another pot you sterilise the lids and your jam funnel. Then in a big pot you have your fruit. I'm using 1.6 kilograms, that's about 3.5 pounds of frozen mixed gooseberries. Then you bring that to the boil slowly, and as that's heating up I'm going to add the seeds of 2 vanilla pods. This is a huge amount of fruit that I'm using. If you don't have that much, don't worry, just use what you have. But just remember to make sure that you use the same weight of sugar. In with the seeds from the second vanilla pod. And I'm also going to add in the emptied out vanilla pods because that'll definitely impart more flavour, and there's bound to be some little seeds that I've missed. These things can be really expensive in the supermarket, so if you want to use extract, go ahead, but I really like to see the little black flecks. Now I'm going to add in 2 10cm cinnamon sticks and allow that all to come to a rolling boil. Once that comes to a rolling boil, it's time to add your sugar. I'm using ordinary granulated sugar here, no added pectin, not jam sugar, because gooseberries are naturally very high in pectin, which is the kind of setting agent that you need to make jam. If I was using strawberries or raspberries or something lower in pectin, I'd use maybe a third jam sugar or use added pectin. So in with the sugar, and again, same weight, so it's 1.6 kilograms. Then stir it up to dissolve. Once that's all dissolved, I'm going to add my candy thermometer. These are so handy for making jam because it'll really precisely tell you the exact point when the jam's at setting point. That's at 113 degrees Celsius or 220 degrees Fahrenheit. If you don't have one of these things, and if you don't want to buy one, don't worry, later on I'm going to show you exactly how to tell when the jam's ready. At this point the jars are ready to take out, so with a jar tongs I remove them from the boiling water and set them onto a clean tea towel. This thing is actually a lot more important than it looks because you don't want to use your fingers, not least because you're taking them out of boiling water, but also you really have to be very careful not to touch the inside of the jars, because if you do touch them, you'll contaminate them and you won't be able to preserve your jam then. And remember to keep stirring your jam occasionally. It'll darken an awful lot in colour and it'll get a lot thicker and you might be tempted to take it out, but it's not done yet. Give it some more time. So this is now what you want to see. Just be very careful at this point. This is really hot sugar. If it sticks to you, it's stuck to you, and it's really hot as well. So just be very careful. You can kind of see there in the thermometer that it's almost at the 113 degrees Celsius. So I'm just going to give it another little bit of time and then show you how to check to see if it's jam that you have now if you don't have the candy thermometer. So before you start at all, you should take a few small plates and stick them in the freezer so they're nice and cold at this point. And then you just spoon a little bit of the jam onto the cold plate and leave it rest for about 5 minutes. You want to put a few plates into the freezer for this because if you get it wrong, you'll have another one to try later when the jam might be more set. So after 5 minutes, you slowly drag your finger across the jam, and if it's formed a skin that wrinkles and if you leave the plate clean after your finger, then it's ready, you've got your jam. So now you try to scoop out your spices, your cinnamon and your vanilla. If you can't do this though, don't worry, you'll find them when you're ladling it into your jars. The magic of video editing made this look a lot easier than it actually was. Then you let the jam cool slightly before you place your jam funnel on top of your jar. This jam funnel, again, it's not necessary. People have been making jam for centuries without these things, but if you're going to just ladle it in, if you're like me, you're going to make a huge mess. So then just ladle it in, almost to the top, before transferring your funnel to your next jar. Then carefully place the lid on top of the jar, being very careful not to touch the inside of the jar. If you do, again, it won't be sterilised and your jam will go mouldy. before you repeat the process with all the remaining jars until you run out of jam. Once all the jars are filled and hand tightened, you put them into a pot of boiling water and leave them for about a half an hour. This will cause the jam and the little bit of air in the top of the jars to expand with the heat, and once you then take them out and let them cool on the counter, it'll all contract, suck in the vacuum seal, and they'll be good on the shelf for a year. I say a year because that's what I've been told, but I actually find that jam lasts pretty much indefinitely on the shelf. As long as it's been sealed properly, you've got nothing to worry about. Just make sure that when you take them from the boiling water that you put them on a tea towel, because they'll be really, really hot, and if you put them on a cool surface, they might shatter. So that's it. Thanks a million for watching. If you like this video, make sure you hit subscribe below, and find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. And for the full recipe or any other tips on how to make jam with other fruits and other quantities, make sure you check out my blog. The link's below at www.rookiecook.org.